thunder of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful...
A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again you'll know it's time for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends.
Starring that supersonic speedster, Rocket J. Squirrel, with his pal Bullwinkle the Moose, and a host of others.
Hurry, Bullwinkle! The show's about to start!
I'm coming as fast as I can.
Wave to the people!
Yay!
Now what are you doing?
Sign an autograph. Let's see. John Smith.
But your name is Bullwinkle.
I know, but that's hard to spell.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. Come on and join us.
Sure, there's always room for one more.
Last time you remember, our friends were stranded in the middle of the desert with the sun setting fast. Well, they shivered their way through the long, cold night, and in the morning gazed out over miles and miles of miles and miles.
Where do you suppose we are, Rock?
We're right in the middle of nowhere, Bullwinkle.
Oh, I'm glad. I thought for a minute we were lost.
It was at that moment that Captain Peach Fuzz made a momentous discovery.
Rocky, Bullwinkle, look here.
What is it, Captain?
Well, if we weren't in the middle of the Sahara Desert, I'd say it was a railroad track.
That's sure one on you.
What do you mean, Bullwinkle?
Well, that's just a mirage.
Mirage?
No, mirage. It's called a octopus illusion.
Optical illusion.
Yeah, it's not really here. Look, I'll kick it. Boy, that's what I really call a mirage. It's hard as a rock.
And look, coming down the track.
Sure enough, as the boys watched, an express train bore down on them like an express train.
Get off the track, Bullwinkle.
Nonsense, Rock. It's all part of the same mirage. That's not a real engine.
No?
I'll prove it. I'll stand right here while it goes by.
And Bullwinkle stood directly between the rails as the engine hurtled toward him. In the locomotive cab, of course, panic reigned.
Now, there's something you don't see every day, Chauncey.
What's that, Edgar?
A moose waving at us from the tracks.
Oh, I don't know, Edgar. Mooses are always pretty friendly.
No, I guess you're right. I'll toot back.
Boy, that sure looks like a real train to me, Bullwinkle.
Come to think of it, I never did hear of a mirage with a whistle.
Look out, Bullwinkle!
And Rocky launched himself through the air and at the last possible instant knocked Bullwinkle out of the way.
Gee, that was close.
Yeah, they don't make mirages like they used to.
Halt! Halt, I say! We must stop that train, Rocky. It's the only way we'll get out of this desert.
Right. Bullwinkle, if you'll give me a little altitude, I'll try to catch it.
Okay, Rock.
And as Captain Peach Fuzz watched in amazement, Rocky held himself rigid and Bullwinkle picked him up like a javelin.
Put my little weight there, Rock.
Then Bullwinkle took a short run and with a mighty heave tossed Rocky high into the air. As soon as he gained enough altitude, the plucky flying squirrel headed downward straight for the speeding train.
I tell you, that boy is a flying fool.
Rocky drew up even with the locomotive and tried to fly into the cab. Unfortunately, he misjudged his distance a trifle and flew right through.
Hey!
Did you see what I saw, Chauncey?
I hope not, Edgar.
It looked like a flying squirrel.
Hey! Stop the train!
You know what, Chauncey? I think we've been on this run too long.
How's that, Edgar?
If the squirrels have started following us,
Yes.
we must be nuts.
Right. Ta-ta, Edgar.
Bye-bye, Chauncey.
And the two terrified engineers leaped from the cab of the speeding locomotive.
Golly, looks like I got here just in time.
Rocky threw the brakes on hard and the train ground to a halt. A few moments and several explanations later, the engineers were back in the cab and our heroes safe on board the train as it started westward again.
Well, we're on our way again, Rock.
And this time, nothing could go wrong.
Well, it better, or people will stop watching the show.
No such chance, for at that moment, just a little way ahead, Boris Badenov stands at a switch that, if thrown, would immediately derail the train.
But why, Boris?
Moose and squirrel are on board.
But what about all the other passengers?
Well, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs.
And the fiendish Boris pulled that fatal lever. Don't miss our next exciting episode, A Creep at the Switch or Sudden Pacific.
Once upon a time, in a large forest, there lived a woodchopper, his wife, and their 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. It was a beautiful forest full of trees, flowers, butterflies, and streams. Matter of fact, there was just one thing missing.
Food! I must have food!
Food? Food isn't everything, dear.
No, but it's something.
But we have the trees, the flowers, the butterflies, the streams. What more could a body want?
A square meal, that's what.
Okay, spoil sport.
Now, you might think that in a forest as big as this one, the woodchopper would be able to bring back some game for the table. But a curious thing happened to him when he went out. He just couldn't pass a tree without chopping it down.
Well, I mean, after all, a woodchopper is to chop wood.
So, each night the woodchopper would come home with lots of logs, but no food.
And what good are logs? You can't eat them.
Who says? Yummy. Anyone for roast leg of log?
I think we better split and get some food, Hansel.
Yeah, looks like Mom's a little kooky.
Kooky? I wish I had a kooky.
So, taking a few precious grains of parched corn, the children set out for the forest. Hours later, Gretel began to worry.
When we found food, how do we find our way back?
Easy. Remember those grains of parched corn? Well, I've been leaving them as a trail so we can find our way home. Some neat plan, huh?
That plan is for the birds.
And so it was. The birds had eaten all the corn. Hopelessly lost, the children wandered about until Hansel suddenly bumped into something that wasn't a tree.
Watch your step, stupid. You bumped right into that gingerbread house.
Gingerbread house?
Oh, isn't it cunning?
Cunning?
It looks good enough to eat. Have a piece of shutter.
I'm more of a shingle and doorman myself.
And in a few minutes, Hansel and Gretel had eaten a big hole in the little house. Then, suddenly...
Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?
There's always a catch. You're a wicked witch, aren't you?
Well, yes.
And you got all kinds of magic powers, true?
Well, no.
You can't breathe fire and smoke?
Nope. I just get dizzy.
You can't summon up demons?
I don't know. Hey, you demons! Tweet!
You got no magic powers at all?
Well, there is one thing I'm pretty good at. Turning children into aardvarks.
Yeah, at that you're pretty good.
But I don't really care much for aardvarks.
Then why do you keep changing children into them?
Because I care even less for children. Besides, I have the witch's tradition to uphold.
Isn't there something you'd rather do?
Oh, sure. I'd like to know how to ride a broomstick. Broom, boy. But what's the use? I'll never get off the ground.
If I show you how to ride a broomstick, will you change Hansel back again?
Of course. But you aren't even a witch.
Oh, come now. There's a little bit of the witch in all of us girls. Give me the broom. Now, you take this broom.
Yeah.
And you twirl it all around.
Yeah.
Now you put it on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And you sit right down.
Yeah.
Now you tell that broom.
Boom, 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 boom.
Now you're on the roof.
And sure enough, Gretel began to fly.
Now me.
But unfortunately, the witch hadn't asked how to turn the broom off. So, once she started it, she had to keep on going. And in a little while, she was in orbit around the Earth, where she remains to this day. But she did keep her word, for as soon as she had gone, Hansel turned back into himself. And so did aardvarks all over the world. In fact, aardvarks might have become extinct if it weren't for the fact that some aardvarks decided that they'd be happier remaining aardvarks. At any rate, Hansel and Gretel packed up the rest of the witch's house and started off. Of course, since they were in a magic forest, they soon came upon a huge talking duck.
Oh, Duck, would you tell us the way back to our cottage?
Je ne comprends pas.
Yes, unfortunately, this was a French talking duck. But he indicated that the children were to get on his back. and down the river they went. After a long while, the duck said,
Et voilà, nous avons arrivé.
which is French for end of the line.
Oh, joy! Home again!
For there, sitting on a log, was their father, not with his axe, but with a musket.
Father, why aren't you chopping down trees?
Well, Gretel, I finally decided that all that glitters is not trees. You can't buy happiness with trees. Besides, I've chopped them all down. Now it's hunting. Hunting is the only thing.
So, from that day on, Hansel and Gretel had plenty of food, and their mother never went hungry again.
You know, sometimes I wish he'd stuck to his wood chopping.
For those of you who went from grammar school right into college, here's Mr. Know-It-All.
Hello, high jumpers. Today's discourse is provocatively entitled How to Run the 4-Minute Mile in 10 Seconds. The 4-minute miler should arise at dawn, eat a hearty breakfast, and go back to bed. Howsoever, if you happen to sleep in a Murphy bed, and Murphy is a night watchman who demands his bed back in the daytime, then you must train elsewhere. And the best place for a train, of course, is a railroad terminus or depot. Here, the neophyte miler has the opportunity of running on an Olympic-sized track. Of course, there is always the hazard that the Olympic special is also running that day. Last but most certainly least, you must have that final burst of speed at the wire. This can be procured at a Finnish steam room. You take a steam bath, then tell them you cannot pay for it. A Finnish attendant will then boot you out. This is what is known as a finishing kick. At last, the day of the race is at hand, and there you are, ready to win the cup. The race is on, and you discover that you are not only running dead last, but that you are doing it in the Indianapolis Auto Race. But you win anyway, and in record time.
Well, I don't get it, Mr. Know-It-All. How were you able to win the race?
I know the judge.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
But that trick never worked.
This time for sure. Presto! Well, I'm getting close.
And now it's time for another special feature.
In the northern region of Canada, in the dead of winter, a blight had settled. That blight was Snidely Whiplash. Snidely Whiplash was up to his old avocation, foreclosing mortgages.
No, 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 Snidely Whiplash. Do not foreclose the mortgage. We will be homeless, forced to wander about this cold Canadian countryside.
You should have thought of that when you signed the mortgage. You people are going to have to learn to read the small print.
I can't even read the large print.
Can I help it if there was a paper shortage? Besides, it will do you good to get out of this cramped apartment. Get some fresh air.
But it's 40 below zero.
So wear a sweater.
Meanwhile, Dudley Do-Right of the Royal Canadian Mounties could not help noticing the plight of the people. He knew he must do something to help them. He said,
"Go home, people."
But, Dudley, we haven't got any homes.
No homes? Every living creature's got a home. Birds got nests. Rabbits got holes.
But we are not rabbits or birds, Dudley. We are people. Snidely Whiplash has foreclosed our mortgages.
Foreclosed your mortgage? And he promised me. Oh, that is a terrible thing. Well, have no fear. The RCMP will have something to say about that.
3 cheers for Dudley Do-Right. Let's hear it for him out there.
And that's the situation, Inspector. Have you ever heard of such a dastardly, low-down, despicably rotten thing in your whole life?
Well, Dudley, you have to look at both sides of the picture.
But, Inspector, those poor people are wandering around.
Well, Dudley, we don't want to do anything rash.
What's the matter with you, Inspector? You're usually so gung-ho.
Dudley, you are right. Dead right, but...
Well, if I'm right, let me go bring in that rascal. Why, I'll fix him. I'll pulverize him.
Enough, Dudley Do-Right. There's nothing we can do about it. I
don't know how to tell you this.
What's that, Inspector?
I lost the Mountie Camp to Snidely in a card game.
You lost the Mountie Camp? Oh, how could you?
Well, I had 3 queens and he had at ease, do right. Now, this is an order. Take this money and ride over to Snidely and make the payment. Otherwise, there will be no Mountie Camp. The payment is due today.
I have reason to believe that Dudley Do-Right will ride in today to make the payment on the camp. Homer, you must stop him, for if the payment is not made, the Mountie Camp will be all mine.
Homer tried everything to stop Dudley, but nothing could stop Do-Right.
Can we talk this over, Do-Right?
Too late for that, Whiplash. It's time for a showdown. Take this.
Dudley, fancy meeting you here. I always knew you were a big spender, and there's just so many things in town I want to buy.
But, Nell, this money is for...
Me? Oh, do right. You always do so right.
But, Nell, your father told me...
You know Father always likes me to look nice.
Oh, Nell. Gee.
Can't trust you to do a thing right, Do-Right. It's that name. I knew it was that name. It never fails, Do-Right. You always do wrong.
Well, I didn't get in the card game, Inspector.
Enough! We have one last chance. You will have to go out and sell subscriptions to the Open Road for Mounters. That's the only way we can raise money for the payment.
Do you like my dress, Father?
Beautiful, my dear. You know I always like you in pink.
Gee.
Although Dudley went conscientiously from house to house.
And if I sell enough subscriptions, I get to go to Catalina Island for a week.
He was only able to make $1.33. We're doomed, Do-Right, doomed.
Inspector, there is one way out of this.
Doomed.
My horse is extremely lucky at cards. I think he can build that $1.33 up to make the payment.
Doomed. Well, all's well that ends well, Do-Right. The people are back in their homes and... What's wrong, Dudley?
You still owe my horse $47.56.
For what?
The payment. Now he's got the mortgage on the camp.
On the perilous path to Mount Flatton and Bullwinkle's mine, Rocky and Bullwinkle wound up on board a train crossing the desert. With them is Captain Peter Peachfuzz, the muddle-headed head of G2.
Yes, Rocky, I've been following you and Bullwinkle for days now.
Why?
'Cause I'm lost.
But you must have another reason.
Well, actually, it's your mind, Bullwinkle.
What about it?
It's chock full of upsidasium.
Upsidasium?
Gee, that's great. Marvelous. What is it?
I can't tell you.
Can't tell us?
But the mine's mine. Mine's mine.
Surely you can give us a little hint.
Well, all right, but just a hint.
And Captain Peachfuzz told them a strange story indeed. It started several years ago in a little western town of Buzzard's Craw, when a grizzled old prospector trudged into town leading his pack mule. He looked like any other grizzled old prospector, but his burro was just a little bit different. It floated along behind him 20 feet in the air.
Looks like Henry's made a strike, Zeb.
How you figure?
Look how uppity his mule is.
The grizzled old prospector pulled his burro in like a kite, hitched him to a rail, and entered the claims office.
Calvin, I want to file a claim on Mount Flatton.
Strike it rich up there, did you?
Yep.
Gold?
Nope.
Silver?
Nope.
What then?
Don't know, but there's sure a lot of it up there.
Did you bring any back, Henry?
Did I? Look at that fool mule. He's carrying a load of it.
You mean?
Yep. I figure it's some anti-gravity metal.
Anti-gravity? What's that mean?
It means the stuff falls up.
Impossible.
But at that moment, the town sneak thief, Scurvy McMurk, was rifling the old prospector's pack.
Oh, boy, I got me a big chunk of...
And McMurk, still holding a piece of the mysterious ore, shot skyward and was never seen again.
And good riddance.
We better send that stuff to the assay office in Durango.
And a few days later at the assay office, the chief assayer, Dr. Sebastian Flegel, held a press conference.
Gentlemen, in this heavy chest we have the world's first anti-gravity metal. Down, boy. Scientists call it a phosphoric butyl eshahedron of axium disulfide. We call it obsidasium.
Obsidasium? Now, let's have a look at it, Doc.
Impossible, gentlemen.
Not even to get your picture in a paper?
Well, all right. But you have to be awfully quick.
And as the doctor opened the heavy lid, the world's entire available supply of obsidasium fell up and out of the chest, crashed through the ceiling, and disappeared into space.
Would you like me to say cheese?
Meanwhile, back in Buzzard's Craw, the grizzled old prospector was in for a severe disappointment.
You can't file a claim on Mount Flatten, Henry.
How come?
Because Mount Flatten is already owned.
By who or?
By a moose.
A moose?
Dewlap the Moose. What's so funny, Henry?
'Cause he'll never find Mount Flatten, is why.
Why so?
'Cause it ain't nowhere to find.
And the grizzled old prospector stalked out of the office and out of the story.
And so you see, the government has been looking for Mount Flatten ever since.
A lost mountain. Hokey smoke.
Well, we'll all look for it together.
Yeah, a whole mountain shouldn't be too hard to find.
Oh, no? And what if the train you're on is speeding toward an open switch? And that's just what's happening now as Boris Badenov gleefully awaits the catastrophe.
My, how time flies when you're having fun.
Don't miss our next episode, The Train on the Plain, or The Overland Express.
Well, it looks as if our time is just about run out.
Mine must be a little slow.
You got the credits, Bullwinkle?
All on this itty-bitty card. Oop!
We're late again, Bullwinkle.
Right.
Bye now. See you next time.
A thunder of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful...
A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again, you'll know it's time for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends.
Starring that supersonic speedster, Rocket J. Squirrel, with his pal Bullwinkle the Moose, and a host of others.
Hurry, Bullwinkle. The show's about to start.
I'm coming as fast as I can.
Wave to the people.
Yay!
Now what are you doing?
Sign an autograph. Let's see. John Smith.
But your name is Bullwinkle.
I know, but that's hard to spell.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. Come on and join us.
Sure, there's always room for one more.
Last time our heroes learned from Captain Peter Peachfuzz, the new head of G2, the strange story of obsidasium, discovered on the slopes of Mount Flatten by an old prospector. This fabulous anti-gravity metal had set scientists on their ears until the entire world's supply had been lost by accident. Not only that, but when the old prospector learned that the mountain was already owned by Bullwinkle's uncle, he said,
Well, he'll never find it.
Why not?
Because it's nowhere to find.
Gee, a lost mountain, and now it's all yours, Bullwinkle.
Yeah, it's the nicest present I never had.
On to Mount Flatten, hey, fellas?
Well, almost anyway, for on the track ahead, Boris Badenov waited beside an open switch.
Boris, darling, why you wrecking train?
He's on train Moose and Squirrel. They won't give us D to Hopsidasium mine, so...
You got orders from Central Control?
You think I can't make my own decisions? You think I'm just a stooge for Central Control?
No, darling.
Well, you're wrong. I am. Hello, fearless leader, old body boy, old chum, old sweetie pumpkin.
Come in, Badenov.
Is this fearless leader?
Of course.
Are you sure?
Badenov, you incompetent nincompoop.
Man, that's him all right. Fearless leader, switch is open, train is coming, okay?
One moment, I check with Mr. Big.
Mr. Big? This must be top-level caper we're on, Natasha.
Achtung!
Yes, yes.
Mr. Big says, follow Moose and Squirrel to mine. Do not wreck train.
Do not! Quick, Natasha, pull switch back.
He's stuck, darling. I can't.
And the two villains tugged vainly at the switch lever as the train drew nearer and nearer.
No use, Boris. It won't work.
Natasha, we got to stop train.
And Boris dashed up the track toward the onrushing locomotive.
Hey, stop! Track is out! Yoo-hoo! Stop the train! Wait! Oh, boy!
Inside the cab of the locomotive, the alert engineers heard Boris's cry.
Sounds like someone shouting, stop the train, Chauncey.
Uh-huh.
I think he said the track is out.
Oh, you know how some people are. Pessimistic.
That's right, Chauncey. Let's see, did I discard or not?
Fortunately for everybody concerned, somebody else heard Boris's bellows.
Hey, there's someone standing on the tracks waving a red claw.
Must be practicing to be a bullfighter.
No, that's a warning to stop.
But we're not stopping.
Well, there's one way to fix that. Pull the emergency cord, Bullwinkle.
And Bullwinkle did just that. Instantly, the brakes went on, the wheels locked, and the passengers went flying.
We're saved, Rocky.
Yeah, I wonder who the hero was that flagged down the train.
Probably some grizzled old prospector.
You're absolutely right. Allow me to introduce myself. Mojave Max, GOP.
GOP?
Grizzled old prospector. This is my sidekick, Death Valley Dottie.
Howdy, partner, darling.
Say, Rock, maybe they could help us find the lost mouse.
Bullwinkle, that's top secret.
You lost something, darling.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to tell you what.
Is it bigger than Kumquat?
Yeah.
Smaller than Texas?
Yeah.
I know. It's a lost mountain.
Hey, that's right. She's pretty good at that game, Rock.
Just the same, we better get back on the train and yike!
Okay. I never yiked on a train, but...
Look, Bullwinkle, it's leaving without us.
Yes, the train was going on its way, leaving our heroes, mind you, at the mercy of Mojave Max and Death Valley Dottie. Don't miss our next thriller, Danger in the Desert, or Max Attacks.
And now it's time for...
Time for the dancing fool, Bullwinkle.
Again? And now for one of our special fairy tales.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Cinderella. She was as pretty as a princess. But she wasn't a princess. She was only a, commoner. The one thing Cinderella wanted in this world was to live in the big castle on the hill. But since she was only a commoner, she wasn't even allowed to attend any of the castle functions. When she heard of any of these affairs, she would run to her bedroom, throw herself on the bed, and cry. She wasn't invited to the prune-plucking pageant. She wasn't invited to the harvest top, and she wasn't invited to the biggest function of all, the grand anniversary ball.
Hello, honey. I'm your fairy godmother. I hope you don't mind my rearranging the furniture.
My fairy godmother. Now I can go to the ball.
You said it, honey. Go to Fairy Rentals. Make it possible for even commoners to go places in style. Just sign here.
Can I get into the castle?
Oh, look here, hon. The deluxe anniversary ball package. Only 100 gold grickles. Includes costume, transportation, and entrance to the castle.
Yeah, but can I marry the prince?
That's 10 grickles extra.
It's a deal.
And with that, the fairy showed Cinderella her finery. There were racks of dresses, hundreds of furs, boxes of jewels.
What about shoes?
I knew I forgot something.
Yes, the good fairy had brought only one pair of shoes with her.
This says 5B.
That's just my size.
But this one's a 13D.
13D?
Yes, it's roomy but comfortable.
That's pretty big.
It's wear this or go barefoot, hon.
I'll wear it.
So, that evening, resplendent in her new clothes, Cinderella approached the castle and entered.
Never mind, honey. You were unfashionably early anyway.
But you promised.
Good fairy rentals never fails. Just stand right here. And remember, this stuff is due back at midnight.
At last I'm going to get into the castle.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the castle wall, Prince Edgar the Mild was speaking with the Prime Minister.
I don't care, Bertie. I want to move.
It's impossible, Eddie.
But this old place is so drafty, and it's falling to bits. Look here.
Nevertheless, as long as you're a prince, you must reside in the palace.
Then I don't want to be a prince. I want to be something else.
Like what?
Well, how about an egg candler?
You haven't the training.
A yogurt tester? An owl trainer?
Face it, Eddie. All you've ever done is collect things. Stamps, butterflies, match covers.
Well, isn't there any call for match cover collectors out there?
No, Eddie. There's really only one way you can leave the castle.
And what's that?
You must marry a commoner.
A commoner? Never. That does it. Where can I find a commoner?
Hi. My name's Cinderella. You must be the prince. Hello, darling.
Is that a commoner?
You've got an eye for class because of the way you're looking.
Of course not.
Daddy
Obviously, a girl of
Daddy's
breeding.
in stocks and bonds. That a girl's breeding is just as plain as day to princes.
Too
and things
bad.
Like that. And that's why Mumsy, well, she says that finishing school means an awful lot to a girl like
She's
me.
a pretty thing. Dances well, too.
We're dancing at Valhalla. That's our summer place. I just dance till all
Oh, I
hours.
do
Except
wish
during
you were
the
a
polo
commoner.
season. Daddy's a
I'd marry her in a
man.
minute.
Just love to hit peasants with my polo mallet. Don't you?
Honey, be yourself. Be yourself.
And I'm so
Poor
sorry.
Cinderella.
You really wouldn't
She was missing her one opportunity to marry the prince, simply by not being herself. A little moral there. And the time quickly went by until midnight.
Yes, Elliot Crowd, any place.
Of course, Cinderella had to flee the palace, but before she did so, she left a small token for the prince to return to her.
I'll just leave this small token for the prince to return to me.
My dear girl, please, I just said that.
I don't want anybody to miss the plot.
Well, Cinderella sat around with one shoe on for days, but she just knew the prince would come, and sure enough, he did.
Is this your shoe, little lady?
Yes, it is.
It doesn't fit very well.
Well, it's roomy but comfortable.
You're sure it's yours?
Yes. Now you put it on.
Put it on? I came to take the other one off.
But Your Highness.
Highness? I'm not a prince. I'm a collector.
Acme Collection Agency. Deadbeats a specialty.
Yes, and you failed to return these shoes to Good Fairy Rentals.
But aren't we going to get married?
Married? I'm already married to a commoner.
Commoner than what, dearie?
So the prince got to leave the castle after all, and he and the good fairy lived happily ever after. And Cinderella, well, she finally got to live inside the castle.
Right. Good Fairy Rentals makes it possible for any, commoner to live like a queen.
Look, Bullwinkle, a message in a bottle.
Fan mail from some flounder?
No, this is what I really call a message. Once again, here's Bullwinkle's Corner.
Hello. Today's poem is The Village Blacksmith by Longfellow. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The muscles of his mighty arms are strong as rubber bands.
Iron bands.
Looky.
Rubber bands. Anyway, I want some shoes for my horse.
Certainly. Something in an Oxford?
Oxford?
How about some tennis shoes? Fine for badminton.
My horse doesn't play badminton.
How dull. Well, how about this dress horseshoe with matching spats?
Just a plain horseshoe, Mr. Smith.
Well, if you insist. Where'd it go? Oh! On the race-spreading chestnut tree, the village Jonesy stands.
You mean Smithy.
I mean Jonesy. I just sold the place.
And now it's time
for 5 or 6 baritone solos in the key of E.
But...
If not... Oh!
Now for another of our special features.
Should have tried E flat.
Hello out there, Peabody here, along with Sherman and Wayback. Wayback is a time machine. Sherman, a boy.
I set the Wayback Machine for July 8th, 1888, just like you told me, Mr. Peabody.
Good boy, Sherman. And now if you'll set the indicator for Richburg, Massachusetts, we'll be off. Off to witness the most titanic struggle in boxing history, the heavyweight championship battle between Jake Kilrain and the immortal John L. Sullivan. The Wayback, incomparable invention that it is, hurtled us back through time and space to the site of Sullivan's training camp.
Hello? This is O'Hara, Sullivan's manager. I'd like to bet $5,000 on Jake Kilrain. Well, that's what I said. 5,000 on Kilrain.
Excuse me, Mr. O'Hara, but are you really going to bet against your own fighter?
You're darn right I am. In John L's condition, he couldn't punch a clock.
O'Hara led the way to an outdoor ring.
There's your John L. Flat on his back, and he's been that way all week.
Too much training?
No, too much mustache. That mustache of his is so heavy he can't lift it.
Between the three of us, we managed to elevate Sullivan to a standing position.
Are you all right, Mr. Sullivan?
He can't speak, lad. Too much pressure on the lips. Stand clear for a second. We'll see how he does. John, me lad, why do you think I give you a razor on your birthday?
This is serious, Mr. Peabody. The fight takes place in an hour.
What fight? You mean the slaughter? Oh, if only there were something we could do.
There is.
What?
Shave him. O'Hara put in an urgent call for the nearest barber, and 10 minutes later...
There, how's that look?
Not his hair. The mustache. Cut his mustache.
And after another 10 minutes...
It's of no use, mister. This man's a mustache won't cut. I'm a roll of 5 a pair of C's, 4 combs, and a half a pair of tweezers.
Well, I'd best be calling up Kilrain's manager and telling him the fight's off.
Don't do that, Mr. O'Hara. Mr. Peabody will think of something.
And, of course, I did.
And in this corner, wearing black leotards and pink balloons, John L. Sullivan.
That sure was a great idea, Mr. Peabody. Those balloons are keeping the mustache up.
Now remember, Kilrain, keep away from that left balloon.
I don't like it. I ain't never fought no balloons before.
Don't worry about it. What comes up must come down.
Yeah, what's that supposed to mean?
I don't know. It just sounded like the right thing to say.
The fight was on. Round 1 found the two antagonists more or less sizing each other up. Sullivan could hardly raise a hand due to his inactivity of the past week, and thanks to my talents with a brush, Kilrain was confused by 3 mustachioed opponents.
How'd you get the black eye, Kilrain? I didn't see him hit you.
He didn't. That left balloon did.
Well, never you mind. Patience is a virtue.
I like what comes up must come down better.
For 30 grueling rounds, the battle raged. At that point, John L. Sullivan was slightly ahead.
You fool. The judges took that round away from you.
But why? I never hit them below the belt.
No, but you hit them below the balloon. Now keep those punches high.
Kilrain did just that. Unfortunately, by round 75, no matter how high he aimed, he couldn't score. It seemed that Sullivan's balloons had inflated slightly, making him immune to a ground attack.
Come down and fight, Sullivan!
Golly, Mr. Peabody, if John L. can keep away from Kilrain, he'll win a decision.
But fate proved otherwise, for John L.'s lofty position placed him directly under the powerful lights that gave off a staggering degree of heat.
He's down! Sullivan's down!
2, 3, 4, 5...
Get up, John L. Get up!
It's his mustache, Mr. Peabody. He'll never make it.
Nothing in this world'll make him rise.
It was then I noticed a gentleman in the first row digesting a huge platter of corned beef and cabbage, and if John L. Sullivan were any sort of Irishman, he'd rise for this. Would you mind if I borrowed this for a moment? Thank you. Well, of course, the rest is history. John L. took one slight inhalation of corned beef and cabbage and turned into a raging tiger. Sullivan was the new champion.
What a fighter he was, Mr. Peabody. Probably the most famous of all time.
True, Sherman, but his manager was equally famous.
Mr. O'Hara?
Oh, yes, he joined the Marines and became the most talked-about celebrity of our time.
I never heard of him, Mr. Peabody.
Really, Sherman? You never heard of Marine O'Hara? Ha ha.
Last time, as you undoubtedly recall, Boris and Natasha popped up disguised as Mojave Max, a grizzled old prospector, and his sidekick, Death Valley Dottie. But what's even worse, our hero's train has started to leave without them.
Hey!
Why are they gone without us, Rock?
I'm sure I don't know.
Well, we do, don't we? For there in the cab of the locomotive was Captain Peter Peachfuzz, who naturally had pushed the wrong lever.
The brake, Chauncey. Where's the brake?
Is this it?
Good heavens, Edgar, we can't stop. We'll keep going forever.
No, I figure we'll stop in Albuquerque.
Why?
There's a big stone wall at the end of the tracks.
Meanwhile, Rocky and Bullwinkle were still chasing desperately after the last car.
Wait up!
You can't go without me. I got a ticket.
Unfortunately, Bullwinkle's ticket suddenly unfolded, and of course, he tripped over it.
Oop!
Well, there it goes.
You go on and fly after it, Rock. You can still catch it.
And leave my pal stranded here? Never.
Gee, you're a real pal-type pal, Rock.
Look at that, Natasha. Sometimes I wish I had a friend.
Why?
So I could double-cross him.
You would double-cross, friend.
I got to. My enemies don't trust me.
Now I wonder how we get from here to Mount Flatten, Bullwinkle.
We got a map, you know.
Hey, that's right. Let's unfold it and take a look.
Right.
You hold this side and I'll hold this side.
And I'll hold this side.
Hey, Mr. Mojave Max, this is supposed to be a secret map.
That's okay. I couldn't remember what was on map if I tried. I got terrible memory.
Gee, that's too bad. How long have you had it?
Had what?
A terrible memory.
There, you see what I mean?
Well, maybe it's okay. Now, which way is Mount Flatten?
The boys and Boris searched the map carefully, but Mount Flatten seemed to be a very elusive peak.
Gee, this map is pretty useless.
Maybe you can't get there from here.
Nonsense, Bullwinkle. Let's just pick a direction and start looking.
Right. How do we pick it?
Let's just toss a pebble into the air and see which way it falls.
How about this one, little fellow?
Too small.
How about this one?
Too big. Hey, Bullwinkle, look at that rock.
Yeah, it's a full-grown one, ain't it?
No, there on the side.
Sure enough, Bullwinkle seemed to have accidentally discovered a primitive road marker.
To Mount Flatten. Come on, Bullwinkle. At last we're going to find your lost mine.
You saw it, kiddo. Let's go.
You coming too, Mr. Mojave Max?
We'd better let him, Bullwinkle. We don't know anything about mining.
That's right. Maybe he'll help us.
And our boys started little realizing that Boris is more likely to help himself to their mine.
Say, your partner's got quite a load there. Don't you have a mule?
No.
But I thought all grizzled old prospectors had a mule.
We got a low-budget show.
Oh, well, let me give you help there, Death Valley Dottie.
Mighty kind of you, partner, darling.
Hey, there's another direction marker. We're going the right way, all right.
And there's another one right up there.
Oh, boy, we're getting closer, Natasha.
But as they drew near the last marker, the boys made a horrifying discovery.
Bullwinkle, the arrow's pointing back the way we came.
You mean we missed it?
We must have.
But looky, there's no mountain anywhere around here.
Well, whoever said Mount Flatten was a lost mountain apparently wasn't kidding. What will our heroes do now?
Well, if you think of anything, let us know, won't you?
And be sure to be with us next time for The Missing Mountain or Peekaboo Peak.
Well, it looks as if our time is just about run out.
Just enough left to tell him who the sponsor was.
You got the credits, Bullwinkle?
All on this itty-bitty card. Oop.